free. There are a lot of beautiful charitable efforts, and this one is no better or no worse than others. But I tell you what, with the economy the way it is right now, for someone your age to go through 8 hours of training, really 6 hours of training, it's a 2-hour IRS test. You become certified by the IRS as a volunteer tax preparer, and there you are sitting at a table with a mother with 2 children with her who's worked 3 jobs during the year, and you save her $300 in about 35 minutes. That's a good use of young people's time, I think. And it's a good experience for college students to realize, and I think this has been fundamentally the biggest lesson learned by the students in this initiative. Overwhelmingly, even the kids who self-identify themselves as liberals say from this experience, I had no idea how hard people worked. Meaning, there really is a pretty strong inherent bias in most middle income and upper middle income families in Alabama, in America, that if someone's making $15,000 a year, somewhere in that story is laziness. And the fact is, for the vast majority of working Americans, laziness is nowhere in the room. None of these people want welfare. They're trying to do everything they can to get by to support their children, having as many jobs as they can manage. The second part, this is the last thing I'll say about impact. This year we should reach 4,000 families, which will make us by far the biggest earned income tax credit volunteer effort in the state. There are 492,000 families in Alabama last year that applied for the earned income tax credit. So what does that make us? I'm not a math major. Less than 1%, I know it's that. This is a year-long, 3-year effort, and we'll be up to the grand total of less than 1% of families served. So I stand back before the summer started, conversation with students. It's frustrating to put a huge amount of time into it. You know you're helping the families you're serving, but you want to have a bigger impact. So we start thinking, what can you do at a state level? What can we do to help those 492,000 families? Is there something to do? So I create a course this summer. We have students do a 50-state survey, and we find 3 states only in the country that have done anything to oversee this, what I call a predatory commercial tax preparation industry. Did you all realize that? If you do hair in Alabama, you got to get a license. If you go to a nail salon, that person has passed a test, been certified, and licensed by the state. If you're a commercial tax preparer charging families $300 a pop, preparing the most important document they sign all year, there's no training requirement, there's no certification, you don't have to pass a test, you don't have to sign up anywhere. It is a raw industry. You have no idea what you're getting when you walk in the door. We follow Maryland, Oregon, and California in writing a bill this year that will provide basic oversight over this industry. We'll require a license. You have to pass a minimum test. You want to charge families a bunch of money to do their taxes? Fine, it's a free country, but you darn well should pass this test and be able to tell them that you know what you're doing. That's the bill. We have about 5,000 letters signed by students to legislators. We raise money and hire a lobbyist. We've been lobbying legislators. I've taken college students to editorial board meetings. We've got 3 going to the Tuscaloosa News on Wednesday. I took 3 students to the Birmingham News last week. And I don't know, you all don't know me very well, but it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut. But I did for an hour and a half. These students presented to this board, interrupting them the whole time. That's a powerful experience for the students. Compress the heck out of this editorial board. And we got in the car, we drove to Florence, did the same thing up there. We've had more media attention the last 2 weeks than any bill being put up in the next week in the legislature. There'll be about 1,400 bills this year. Less than 200 get signed by the governor. There's probably about an 80% chance our bill won't make it through this first year. That's really rare to make it through your first year. But there's a chance, and we'll keep fighting for it. And we'll be going down to Montgomery a lot. I think that's first what I would say. Got any questions about that?
Out of the 3, the Save First, Focus First, and Impact Alabama, what do you think has had the overall biggest impact, the best so far?
I would say, well, let me say this, and it's confusing. Impact Alabama is the nonprofit. That's the umbrella organization. And there's Save First, Speak First, and Focus First. I would say, I mean, I don't know. That's like sort of asking someone, which kid do you love more? The tall one that plays tennis or the short one that's good in geometry? I don't know. They're all, you know, I mean, focus first. I mean, when you're literally keeping kids from going blind, I feel like that's pretty powerful. I think tax preparation, that's a huge amount of money to save a lot of families that deserve to save that money. And I think this model has the potential to be the biggest impact, meaning involving college students and campuses in what I would call justice as opposed to charity. This is, to me, the fundamental challenge of your generation. You all, whether you know it or not, have become the most charitable, voluntaristic young generation in the history of the country since we've been measuring since before World War II. Put more time into volunteering, more time spent being charitable. Have you ever heard the term alternative spring break? You know what that means? I'm not that old, and when I was in college, there was no alternative to spring break. If someone raised their hand when I was in college in February and said, "Do y'all want to get together with me and go to a poor area and build a home for a family?" I'd have been like, "What are you, part of a cult? Are you kidding me? It's spring break. I don't want an alternative from I want an alternative from school." We can't create alternative spring breaks fast enough right now to meet this demand. I've got 12 full-time employees for Impact, and I told you 10 of them make $10,000 with that scholarship. I mean, I've got a waiting list. I've got 4 times as many college seniors applying to work for Impact as we have spaces for next year. Fascinating generation. This is the risk. As a generation, you're unbelievably charitable. But if it's a self-satisfying, charitable nature that feels content at only being charitable, then that's a big risk to the future of our country. In other words, if you, as someone in your generation, builds a Habitat for Humanity home on a Saturday, goes home tired at 5 p.m., lays on the couch, opens a beer, those of you who are 21, and thinks to yourself, I mean, I'm a good person. I've done what's required of me. As opposed to also feeling a responsibility to participate in increasing affordable housing and learning about mixed income developments that have worked, learning why public housing fails some places, works other places. If you volunteer at a school to help a child read on a Wednesday afternoon, that's a great use of your time. But you're also needed as a college-educated adult in this state to participate in a growing need and movement to increase and improve public education throughout the state. Do you all follow what I mean? There's a risk with only being charitable and feeling satisfied with that, as opposed to also wanting to engage yourselves in legislative efforts, in large-scale efforts. So I think Save First could be the most important one, because 4,000 families is a huge number of families, and that's a large charitable project. But I think it's really valuable for young people and campuses themselves to see themselves as part of changing movements that are bigger than just the charity you're dealing with that afternoon. And there may be other examples of that. I haven't been able to find that, but I guarantee you that will be a trend. Students doing service learning, not just to be charitable, but learning about issues, writing bills, meeting with legislators, going to state houses, traveling to Washington, going to city councils, participating in active, engaged citizenship as opposed to only being charitable.
Next question.
Do you plan on implementing more initiatives for Impact Alabama in the future?
I mean, my social life is such a wreck right now. I don't have any time. No. I would love to say yes. I would say these have a natural trajectory. Like Focus First still can grow. We'll get to probably 20,000 kids this year, maybe. And I would love to see us get to a little bit more than that each year. Save First obviously can grow a huge amount. The legislative effort, if we lose this, we'll be right back the next year. But once we win this, we'll take on something else. So I guess that's a way to say yes. That part will continue to grow and change. The debate team's that's very time intensive. I mean, I've met with other cities about other people doing it, but we don't as a staff have time to do that in another city.